Wait.
We're live.
Hello and welcome to the Weekly Word. Today is Thursday, June 6th. I'm Morgan West.
And I'm Rich Parler, and I have nothing funny to say today.
Shame on you.
No,
You
I
always
didn't.
have something funny to
I
say.
usually have something to say. It's not always funny. Tonight we are joined by Matt Davids, aka Dice Geeks. Matt, tell us a little about yourself.
All right. Well, currently, I am a full-time writer of tabletop RPG resource books, and I run the website dicegeeks.com. And as we were mentioning a little before the show, I played D&D the first time when I was 9 years old, and the first time I ran a game was the next day when I ran my mom through a dungeon.
Oh,
That's
really,
awesome.
Yeah, I didn't really know any of the rules or anything, but I just ran through a dungeon. So that's how I started role playing.
So cool.
So just to give everybody a heads up, there is a slight connection thing with. So there's a lag on the video from Matt. However, your audio is coming across very clear. And if it's not, Smurfy Power will tell us very shortly.
Yes, she will.
Do you think she's watching today?
I think so. If she's not watching, listening to. She's
Why?
She has been in the process of cleaning out a house for someone, so
okay.
she might be still up to that at this point.
All right, that's fine.
So we'll be in her pocket,
All right.
in her earbuds.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
So, shall we move on?
Why not?
All right. So the first topic for tonight is D&D Confession. So the headline: I often make D&D characters that don't care for wealth, cause I'm terrible at keeping track of monies. What's your D&D confession? And that was given us to by at Chai Chai.
Zai Chai? I'm not
Zai
really
Chai?
sure how we're gonna pronounce that.
I think it could be Chai Chai or
All right.
Zai Chai. We'll go with Zai Chai because then it makes it a little
Zai
bit different.
Chai?
No,
I
whatever.
don't know. There's a lot of options.
I don't know. The links, as usual, are all in the description. I put them there yesterday.
Cool.
So what types of characters and traits do you avoid, and why?
I avoid bards. They intimidate me.
Why?
I'm always nervous that I'm going to be asked to sing by my DM. And if that happens, I go red in the face. And I just totally clam up and I forget all songs that ever existed. I'm like, what is this song again? I think I know one about the alphabet. But that's one of my confessions. I'm sure there are many. I like making creepy characters. You have firsthand experience with that.
Yes, I do. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I do.
So
They're more fun.
Says to who? To your DM? Not your DM.
What? Creepy characters are more fun. I say it to everyone, and everyone collectively agrees.
Almost everyone collectively agrees.
How about you, Matt? What's your D&D confession?
Well, I usually avoid characters that are aimless. I usually try to give my characters some grand goal or something like that they're doing. Kind of on the flip side of what do I like to make, probably to the annoyance of some people when I play, I try to always make the leader of the party.
Okay, all right.
Or a character that could become the leader of the party.
I think that makes sense.
That's just a little tick. I don't know, maybe I have too much. I'm used to the power of when I run a game or something. I can't give it up even when I play or something like that.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that. I'm stepping away with that in our Monday night game. I think I'm doing a pretty good job of not suggesting ideas.
I think you're doing fine. Well, it's not your character.
Exactly.
Right?
And I think I'm doing well in holding to that character.
Yes, I do agree with that.
I'm rather guilty of usually trying to get my party to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
So my biggest confession is I tend to stay away from the non-common races.
Mm-hmm.
I stay mostly I make a lot of elves. I like elves. I play elf. I feel I play an elf well.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
obviously I guess that's subjective, but I play a good drow.
Interesting.
I'm a very evil character.
Huh.
I don't necessarily need to be the leader of the party.
Yeah.
But when they're being stupid, I take over.
What happens? Sometimes you need to step in.
Yeah, sometimes.
But you got to do it in a careful enough way so that it doesn't feel like meta. You know?
Yes. Absolutely.
Because that's my struggle. That is avoiding making decisions that I want to make as opposed to decisions that my character would make. But you got to work on it. I think it's something.
So the trick is there just to make a character who would think of some of those things, and then you can pass it off as playing your character.
I'm already playing her in real life though, and it's like we all step into D&D to escape ourselves a little bit, So
yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's move on.
Yeah.
Oh, just so you know, I came up. We have something that we use at work. So, Matt, you haven't had the privilege of meeting John yet, but our friend John, when he comes on the show, he can talk for 20 minutes over nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So there's a from now on, when we're talking too long on something, we just say Elmo.
Elmo.
Elmo. Enough.
Elmo.
Let's move on.
All right.
So we just say Elmo.
Okay.
We use it at work whenever we talk about a topic too much.
That's funny.
All right. What do we got? What's up next?
Our next topic, random tables.
Okay.
Yeah.
So random tables. I wanted to talk about random tables because our guest Matt Davids has written 4 books. 4 books? 4
Yes.
volumes of random tables.
That's incredible.
There was something like 10,000 random items.
Yeah. There's 25 random tables in each of the books.
And they're all D100, right?
Yes, they're
That's
all D100.
incredible and mind-boggling at the same time.
So before we go into why, the topic there, it's like, how did you just sat down and did that?
At first, what I realized was kind of years ago is that, especially for some games that didn't have a lot of random tables,
right?
Like I ran a lot of the old West End Star Wars game.
Okay. Yes.
And it didn't have a lot of random tables, so I realized I was making my own because anytime my players, you can tell them it's a broom closet, they want to search it, right? And and so it gets really old, both from the GM and the player, just to say, well, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
You find nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You find nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever, kind of just one item or 2 items or something that I can think of, kind of just off the top of my head or something. So that just gets old. So I made one table for the Star Wars game, I remember years ago, and my players just loved it. And because anytime they would search something, at least gave them a chance, to find something interesting. And so with these tables, as I was, running some other games and stuff, I just, just started realizing it was just like, I need items for rooms. And so, yes, definitely the first one, I just started putting together tables that would be helpful for when I was running some games.
Right.
And I kind of just decided to put that in the book, and then it did really well. So I put some other ones in there, and then I kind of, started asking some of the guys in my gaming group if they wanted to help out and stuff like that. So now some of the books have some tables from them in there as well. And I don't know, it's just, for me, it just makes running a game just so much easier.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to, now it's just like, I'm married, I have 3 small boys, when am I going to sit down and put, every single item into a room, or just to, when am I going to do that? So I don't worry about what's in the room until somebody says, oh, we searched that room, because what if they don't search the room?
Right.
What if they surprise me? Then I've already, put stuff there.
And you put time and effort into it, which is a pain.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's an awesome resource.
What if they leave the dungeon, right? What if they find something cool and they decide to leave the dungeon before they go into one of my best rooms, Right. Or if I have a certain item for, they need to find for the quest, I can put that there. But then, I have 4 other players searching the room. Well, I can use the random tables just to give them anything from, 4 gold pieces to a dead rat to a rusty sword to, whatever.
Everybody should find a dead rat in a room.
That dead rat.
Yeah.
I put a lot of effort into my Monday campaign because they demand it. And they don't go into half the places.
Oh.
So what I decided is they just don't get all the experience because, I have exploration experience.
Rude.
Yeah, that's so rude. I'm a rude guy. But I think that's awesome. You didn't just wake up one day and said, "I'm going to make random tables." You've been doing it for a long
That's
time.
amazing.
Because there's
Yeah.
2,500 items in each book.
That's a weakness of mine is
Randomness?
filling the world with items that the players might want, or like
So
loot too. Loot is a weak point for me.
I randomize loot all the time. You have random loot tables in there?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'm gonna go pick.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick them up.
My girls will be happy that
because
they'll be like, "Oh my God, stuff really?"
it's so worth it, and it makes things easier.
Yeah.
And so to our topic, and I know we spent a lot of time on it, but I don't. That's okay.
Smurfy, yes.
Oh, welcome, Smurfy. So, what was I going to say? Oh, to the topic.
The
We were
topic,
talking about. Thanks,
yeah.
Smurfy. You made me
Yeah.
lose my place. So, planned versus randomness. Is it lazy or does it add the spice you need? It's interesting, right?
I think it.
Let's hear from you. I'm curious what your
Yeah.
take on this is, Matt.
I think it absolutely adds to the game. I have never really seen it just destroy a game or anything like that. And as far as it being lazy, um, a player before they come to a game, maybe they have to level up their character, they have to remember their character sheet or something like this.
Right.
Why should the game master, why do I have to spend 30 hours
Right.
this week
Yeah.
to play, 4 hours with my friends or
Yeah.
something like that?
Mm-hmm.
That just doesn't make any sense to me. If they can show up, I should be able to show up. And, planning things, I think in some way, right? I mean, I'm always planning a dungeon,
Yeah,
right? I'm always
absolutely.
planning a campaign. When I'm doing some, eating lunch or whatever, or, just doing, watching a movie, reading a book, anything, I'm thinking of how I can use this in a campaign. How can I use this? And so there's some planning already, even if it's kind of loose and that.
Right.
But I think the randomness just adds to the game because, just for, kind of a quick example, just about a year and a half ago or so, I was running my post-apocalyptic setting for the OpenD6 system. It's called Anarchy.
Okay.
And I was running that, and one of my players, it's a near future, there's been a nuclear war kind of thing. One of my players, his character was named James. That was his character name.
Okay.
And I rolled. He had to travel somewhere. He was trying to save this family, post-apocalyptic stuff. And he was traveling, so I rolled on a random table, and I rolled a random encounter of an insane man standing in the street.
Cool.
Well, so I started playing this insane man. Well, my player, he didn't want to just kill a man who's disturbed or something. So he starts to try to talk to him. Well, he asked the man his name. Now I could have just made up, I could have just made up Bob or Charles or Michael or something
Bob,
like that.
there
Bob,
it is.
which by the way is the most common name in D&D.
Oh yes.
We found out.
I know, you always have an NPC named Bob or a goblin named Bob or something. But so I could have come up with that, but I rolled on a random name table that I had, and I rolled the name James.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Wow.
And so if I was planning it, I wouldn't have made it the same name because that's just not what you do.
Right.
But of course, it's totally common that two people would be named James. There's guys named that all over the place, right?
Yeah.
It's very common. And so that actually helped us as we were role playing it because the insane man was starting, thinking he was taking his name and different things like this, and we were just able to play on that.
Yes.
And that wouldn't have happened if I would have just planned out an encounter because I wouldn't have made their names the same.
Yeah,
Right.
That's awesome.
Love that.
That's awesome. So, move on to a D&D tip.
Yeah.
All right. So our D&D tip comes to us from Sly Flourish, who puts so many tips out there.
Yeah, Slack Flourish is great.
Cut off passages and chambers in a dungeon on the fly if it better fits the timing and pacing of the adventure you're running.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think it's a great idea.
Really?
And it's something I've done.
Yeah?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like they're just walking down a hallway and they hit a wall, it's a dead end, and it wasn't a dead end before?
Yeah. When they had an option to go one way, I was like, you know what? They spent a lot of time in one room trying to figure something out. way too much time in this room. I'm like, nope, no other rooms. It's here. There's a doorway. It's a broom closet. Like, you know.
Like I've shortened adventures before, yes, when there's time limits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever changed a dungeon on the fly. I've changed an adventure on the fly. You guys heard the story beforehand where I changed the boss encounter, the final encounter of a monster, and one of the players got angry with me because for changing it, because I should run it exactly how it was written down. I told him, I said, I made the adventure up last night. What are you talking about?
See, there's an interesting aspect to this where it's specifically in timing, how you can feel whether something feels right or not.
Yes.
You know, I listen to a decent amount of D&D live play podcasts.
Yes.
And one of the first that I listened to, Tabletop Champions, they talk about how, you know, the DM refuses to end an episode mid-combat.
Right.
So there are times when, you know, his big bad just is not where he expected it to have been.
Yeah, okay.
Based off of where his characters end up
so
by
it's
the
all right.
end of the session.
I've done that a couple of times. I did that once on the Monday Night Campaign. Matt, you may remember this. Do you remember the cartoons in the Player's Handbook and the DM's Guide from earlier editions? And one of them says, "Why is it so dark down there?" Oh, the DM hasn't finished drawing the map.
I think I do remember that one. Yeah. I mean, I think, I mean, if it serves the session or the campaign or the mood of the party and it makes things, you know, more fun, if it adds fun to it, then I don't see why you shouldn't do it. You know, I don't see why, you know, you should give them, if they're doing, you know, a good job or they're defeating things, I don't see the reason why not to give an extra room there to where they can explore for a little extra loot.
Sure.
And, you know, or if the if the timing of the session is right there, to leave it on a cliffhanger or something like that, I just don't see any problem with that at all. Sounds great.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
So what we got? No prep GMing.
Yeah.
No prep GMing. So time for prep? No. How do you handle it? So I'll give the story, and so sorry, for people out there who haven't heard the story before, you know, you guys have heard it, so deal with it.
Right.
Last year at a gaming convention, I remember jumping as a DM onto into an adventure. I had 30 minutes to prepare because the DM dropped out. It was level 10 characters. We had to print out character sheets. We didn't know. And the way I went about it was, I read the synopsis, because at least there was a synopsis of an adventure. And I thought, I said, okay, well, what's the plot? And I quickly wrote down a plot that was malleable, so I was able to change it and stuff. And I picked out the monsters. And then I started to let the chips fly and let the players start, you know, as we started to interact. You know, all I had to do was come up with the hook. And then once I had the hook, I improv'd it the rest of the way with him. And so that's pretty much how I prepped. Just I needed to know what monsters I wanted to use, and I think that was the most important part. I was lucky also it was only for a convention, so it was a one-shot.
Right.
So, so how would you go about it?
What are you talking about?
Whoever wants to answer the
Matt,
question.
how would you handle it?
Well, I pretty much now run every session no prep.
Wow.
You know, like I said earlier, you know, I'm kind of, in a sense, always prepping if I'm watching a movie, if I'm watching, you know, reading a book or something, or just thinking of ideas, or, you know, just flipping through the books every once in a while and think, oh, I haven't used the Mummy Lord in a long time or something.
It's time to use a Mummy Lord.
Yeah. And so,
I like Mummy Lords.
you know, I just handle it. You know, I just listen to my players.
Yeah.
You know, if I have just a way to kind of start the session, I just give them kind of a number of options, and then once they take one, I just kind of roll with it.
Yeah.
And I'm just ready to go. And if I say, oh, there's, you know, a pile of rocks next to the road or something, and they say we want to look under that, maybe there's a dungeon down there. Well, I may just put a dungeon right there, so they can go in there. Or, you know, if they want to go into town and talk to, somebody who owns the potion shop, well, I may just give them some kind of adventure hook right there.
That works, yeah.
Just, I just kind of follow along with what they do and kind of give a little twist to it. And, if I want to add a surprise or something here or there, of course I can do that. Or, like I said, if I have some kind of, if I've thought of something that I really want them to do and some idea that I really want to run, then I will just kind of put that almost anywhere that they are.
Cool.
I will put that in front of them, and, because, my players all the time are, just a few months ago, right? Like an Umber Hulk breaks out of the wall and attacks the party, and they want to go down his tunnel and see what's down his tunnel, right? Like, I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
I mean, who thinks of that? But they said go, so I just
Awesome.
let them.
Oh,
And
I
we
love
had an
that.
entire session where they went down the Umber Hulk's tunnel, and then they found like an ancient dungeon. I sent them into a dungeon down there because I just have some extra dungeon maps. Actually, I made a book of dungeon maps, but I just picked a map and put them in a dungeon that they found at the end of this Umber Hulk's tunnel, and I had none of that planned.
Wow.
Nice.
And I just used random tables then to fill in the rooms as they entered in, and and once maybe once while they were taking a break or something, I flipped open the monster manual and picked out some kind of creature to give them a challenge, and that was it. And I ran the whole session that way.
Wow. I have to say I'm guilty of being one of those people that obsessively preps. I do. I started prepping the campaign I play with my girls 6 months before we sat down for our first session because I wanted to make sure I had it.
Really?
Yeah.
I am about maybe one session ahead of you guys.
Wow.
I never used to prep. I was with you. I used to just do impromptu.
Yeah.
But with the live stream, I wanted to be a little bit more prepared.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, for me, my favorite part is like the development of a plot, of like something that pushes your characters forward, like a driving force.
Okay.
And so I want captivating, like I want to push. So for example,
don't push me.
No, I won't. Tara, our friend Tara, plays in my game.
Yeah.
And she
does she play or is she on her phone all the time?
I think to be completely honest, we haven't played in
I'm only kidding.
So I don't remember.
I'm sorry, Tara, if you're listening.
I'm sure it's a mix of both. But so in her backstory, she had a vision, a secret knowledge of the world, and so I was like, well, do you want to come up with your vision so that could inspire the lore within the world? And she was like, I don't really have any ideas, so I built her a vision that was going to draw her further into the campaign plot. And so, yes, I'm guilty of being one of those people who compulsively prep.
It's fine. So we need those too.
I've been prepping for many months. But I find that, when you are over-prepped, you're guilty of...
railroading.
Not only that, but like being suddenly at a loss. Yeah. When
they do something unexpected.
Yes.
It's like, well, exactly. I didn't plan for that. That's it. Game's over.
Yeah. No,
I'm going home.
You have to be a little bit more welcoming than that, but it's definitely something that you got to watch for. I just handle that with option A, B, C through J, which Alex can tell you. I have literally had like, what if they do this? Like, it looks like a diverging, like, make your own adventure book. I have 30 pages prepped for a
you should publish it.
A campaign that
she should
that I've done for maybe, I don't know.
We're actually working on she wants me, I'm gonna call her she, even though she's sitting right here. She would like me to run the same adventure in every edition of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes, I do.
Including basic.
Yeah, I want to see. I want to see how it'll vary. I want to see, like, if we end up doing certain things differently than others, based on not only just how the game plays, but on like our dice rolls. Like, how different will the same campaign be over and over and over again?
I had to actively go down and hunt down 4th edition rules because that edition is horrible. Anyway, so anyway, as we move on.
Yes.
Does D&D make you smarter?
Does it?
According to some people, it does. How Dungeons and Dragons prime students for interdisciplinary learnings, including STEM. So, as it turns out, that a group of ninth graders, grade 9 students, tested the highest in their school in standardized testing. Right? I mean, they were step outs. Turns out that all of them who did, were all in the Dungeons and Dragons club.
Super cool.
And they talk about how Dungeons and Dragons, it enriches your thinking and your imagination, but also there's also math involved, right? There's definitely some aspects of real life science and math, and there's fantastical magic, but one of the examples they give in the article, and by the way, the link to the article is in the description. They all are. I recommend reading it because it's really good. But one of them is like, will a suit of plate mail armor become magnetized if it's hit with a lightning bolt?
Yes.
That's very interesting. I never thought of that. But, I could see where somebody in school would think of something like that. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, it should become magnetized, right? How great would that be if you have two fighters with plate mail armor, you hit one with a lightning bolt, and all of a sudden they're attracted to each other?
Yeah.
What a chain reaction that would be.
I love it.
So, I grew up in the 80s with when there was all the negative feedback and backlash against Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
And I wrote I wrote a book report called Death in D&D.
Oh my god.
And it was that was the title. My English
were
teacher
you sent to the counselor?
She didn't like me. And it was well put together. She couldn't not give me a good grade on it.
Right.
So
what did you argue?
I argued of all these things about how in your imagination it uses parts of your brain that you don't normally get in school because you have to learn different things. And then in a Shakespeare class or another English class, we took a test, and he gave us questions that we never learned about Greek gods and Roman gods, and I got them all right.
Yeah.
Because of D&D.
Right.
Because I read Deities and Demigods.
Right.
Which was a subject from last week.
Yeah.
So.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it does make you smarter. I agree. I mean, because I know, growing up playing Dungeons and Dragons or other games, I had to read books, and I'm choosing to do math problems, basically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to do my math worksheet, but I'll do a math problem to figure out, what my hit points are or whatever, whatever I'm doing. And, I don't want to read all of these boring books, but I'll sit there for I don't know how many hours looking through the player's handbook or the monster manual or reading, getting practice at it and learning different things, like you said, different pantheons of different gods and things like that. And I think it just spills over because you think, oh, well, how can I use the Greek gods in my D&D game? So then you start looking those up. Oh, how can I use the Egyptian gods in my D&D game? And it just kind of snowballs from there. So I definitely think it does. It certainly can pique somebody's curiosity and their willingness to learn. I think so.
So and it's just like back before we now have the nice, neat 5th edition system, we always had THACO.
Yeah.
That was math unto itself. THACO, 2 hit armor class 0. And then you had to adjust what you rolled based off of what their armor class was.
Oh, wow.
It was great math. It was great.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I agree. I do think it does, and I think it's a great article, and you should read it if you haven't. I think that, where does that bring us?
It brings us to what we are watching, reading, and listening to.
What we are reading, watching, and listening to. Why do you say it backwards?
It rolled off the tongue.
You said sideways, actually. Should we reorganize it that way?
Maybe.
Watching, reading, and listening to?
Yeah.
It actually sounds better.
So,
we're changing the script.
In that spirit, what I am watching, I just started watching, firstly, Chernobyl.
And this also gives Smurfy a chance to tell us that you're reading nothing.
Yeah, that I'm reading nothing, yeah. I just started watching Chernobyl on HBO. I have watched just the first episode. It is genius and so devastating. I have to say, I felt a certain kind of unpleasant way after the first episode, but it really was captivating. The cinematography was beautiful, but man, does it really hit home. I'm also watching Russian Doll, which is refreshing. I had made fun of it every time I saw the preview on Netflix for it because I was like, God, aren't we tired of that concept by now? We're living the same day over and over. Like, how many times do we need to go through that idea? And I have to say, I'm really loving it.
But
So
if they can put a new
words.
twist on it, then that's great.
It's done well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am watching The Expanse.
Oh, so good.
I have not seen it before, and I'm in the third season. I'm almost done. I just started watching it, and I'm almost done. I like binge watching,
it's
so
fun.
I'm watching The Expanse and Family Guy, which was on right before we went live.
How about you, Matt? What are you watching?
I am actually watching the old science fiction show Andromeda.
Okay, I remember that.
Kind of back in the day, I was only able to see like the first couple seasons, so it's on Amazon Prime now. So I am kind of halfway through the third season.
All right.
So Smurfy has before we move on. Smurfy says, Morgan is currently not reading anything. She is listening to something, and Rich is still reading something by that. Can't remember his first name, but last name is Morgan.
K. Morgan. What's his first name? Oh, something.
We'll get that. We'll get
Philip?
there.
Philip K.
I'm
Morgan?
thinking Arthur J. That's what she's saying.
No.
So
it's K. It's for sure. It's K.
Let's see. What are we reading? What are we reading, people?
All right. I'm
reading.
Not really reading. I'm listening
anything.
to The Silkworm by Robert Galbraith and loving it. It's the second book in his Cormoran Strike series. I say his when we all know that I'm talking about J.K. Rowling, but that's fine. How about you?
I am reading Market Forces. I believe it is the final book by Richard K. Morgan.
Richard! Ugh.
Really? It's my name. You could think of it? Once again,
I only have room for 2 Richards.
I am a serial reader. I will try to read all the books of an author if I like them.
Really?
Yes, if I like them.
That's
right?
dedication.
Well, it is, but I did have to skip off some of them. Like I also like Ken Follett. And I've read a lot of his books, but like you want to read 1 or 2, and then you're like, you need a break because you got to come down because his are really good.
Yeah.
But so Richard K. Market Forces. This one's interesting. It actually takes place in slightly in the future, not too far in the future, and there's a lot of like Mad Max pieces in it. Like they all seem like they're in business and they're like they work for financial suits, but in order for when two companies pick up the same job, they actually get in their cars and they run each other off the road to see who wins, and that's who gets the bid.
Interesting.
Right, and I'm right at the beginning of that one, and I like it. And for those who don't know, although everybody does, and I'm sure Smurfy does, Richard K. Morgan is the author of Altered Carbon, which is on Netflix.
Yeah.
So I do like his books. And what are you reading?
I am reading a novel simply called Atlantis, and it is kind of a British ex-Special Forces guy who's become an archaeologist, and they think they have located the ancient city of Atlantis actually in the Black Sea.
Nice.
I am blanking on the author's name, and I have to say it's not actually the greatest book, but I read a lot. So
let's not name him.
I won't add it to the list then. We won't find it on Oprah's book club.
Yeah.
All right.
Lastly, I'm listening to a lot of Radiolab. I'm just going back, trying to clear out my library. This week I listened to one on loops, which loops. That was the topic of the episode was loops, in all different fashions. One quick story. There was a story about a woman who had, I can't remember the first word, starts with a T. I'm going to say it was transient global amnesia. She woke up, started gardening that morning.
Was transient global amnesia?
So it's when you randomly suffer from amnesia for no reason whatsoever.
I'm going to do that in the middle of a game on purpose.
So
on purpose, which is what I was going to say.
This woman, she's in her garden. She makes a phone call to her daughter saying, be careful. It's supposed to be raining outside. She calls her other daughter 20 minutes later from inside the house and says, there's weird stuff in the house. And she's like, her daughter's like, what are you talking about weird? She goes, well, the calendar says it's August of 2010. And she's like, well, it is August of 2010. And as soon as she says that, she hangs up, calls the paramedics to come get her mom because she thinks her mom had a stroke. When they get to the hospital, they discover it's amnesia. And for the next 2.5 hours, the daughter is in the room with her, talking to her about the experience, about how she found her mother, the phone call that they had. And her mother repeats the exact same conversation sentences over for 2.5 hours on a 90-second loop. She goes, so what's today's date? And her daughter says, it's August 24th, 2010. And she goes, oh, darn, I missed my birthday. And her daughter's like, well, you didn't miss it. You were there. And she goes, this is just so creepy. Tell me how it happens again. And says the exact same thing over and over and over again for 2.5 hours. And apparently it's a documented phenomenon that people who suffer transient global amnesia suddenly go into weird loops of conversation, and they talk about it as like you're like the machine coming out. Is that when like there's like an altered like reality experience?
Yeah, got it.
People start to like revert back to their base like determining factors of who they are as a person. Very creepy, very interesting. Loops, check it out.
Smurfy Power is currently reading Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton.
Ooh, cool.
It's good.
Yeah.
So that was a good one.
How about you? What are you reading?
Listening to. The Offspring.
The Offspring.
The Offspring.
All
the
right.
band. That's what I'm listening to.
Cool.
A lot of it.
A lot of it?
Yes.
On repeat?
I like The Offspring. I like The Offspring.
Fair enough. How about you, Matt? What are you listening to?
Well, in the way of podcasts, I always listen to Ken and Robin talk about stuff. If you guys are familiar with that
Not familiar
podcast,
with it, no.
I'm not.
Oh wow! But Robin D. Laws and Ken Hite.
Okay.
They Gumshoe and games like that. They're the creators. Robin D. Laws is the creator of Gumshoe, Feng Shui, different things like that. Kenneth Hite wrote Trail of Cthulhu. So I always listen to Ken and Robin talk about stuff.
Cool.
And then there was a new podcast. I don't know if it's new, but I just discovered it. It's called Appendix N, and apparently they're going through all of the books in the Appendix N in D&D, that all of the influences that Gygax and the others said inspired D&D. So I haven't listened to that one yet, but I've got that one queued up.
Interesting.
Awesome. Really cool.
That brings us to our quick notes.
Yeah, next segment.
All right, the quick notes are really quick. We'll go through them.
Yeah.
Tuesday campaign recap. Anything? Nothing?
We are at a multi-table event now. We're switching it up.
Good.
Yeah.
All right.
Exciting.
Next thing, the name Avernus. You know, the book that's coming out, the new D&D book.
Oh, yeah.
Comes from the Greek word arnos, which translates as without birds. It's a volcanic crater in Italy and is believed to be the entrance to the underworld.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So, interesting that it all comes from. They're interesting to see what kind of other ancient mythologies are in there.
That's brought to us by at
Morris. Yes. Next, Brendan Stoddard reviewed Ghost of Saltmarsh, and he gave it an overall score of 9.5. That's pretty high. And I've heard really good things about the Ghost of Saltmarsh, so we'll look at that. That was brought to us also by At Morris.
Yeah.
Then, lastly, Netflix and Wizards of the Coast have made a deal, and they teamed up with Joe and Anthony Russo to make Magic the Gathering anime series.
Oh, wow.
I
don't know if I don't know.
The teaser of Chandra has me asking questions. That's NX on Netflix brought us to that. But talking to a couple of people at the store, they actually are quite intrigued and they're looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I've played Magic. I haven't played Magic since 1995.
Okay.
And I never really got into it. So.
Yeah. I've got one last quick note.
Sure. Go ahead.
I recently played Scythe for the first time.
Yes.
which I found incredibly challenging. I don't know why I could not wrap my head around it. For the first hour and a half we were playing, I was playing a game that I was not playing. And about 2 hours into it, I realized what the actual point of the game was, so I started playing it.
Right.
After it was over, I went on Board Game Geek and found out that the weight of Scythe is only 3.3 out of 5, which leaves me wondering, my God, what kind of games are out there? And I hope I never play them.
You may. But we played Dresden Files on
Yes,
on
we
Monday,
did.
which
That
is really good.
It was a lot
the Dresden
of fun.
Files card game. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a good time.
I had that for 2 years. I only sleeved the cards. That's all I ever did to
Wow.
it.
Well, I'm glad we finally got it out of the box.
So the Gen Con 2019 countdown, threadraiderspodcast.com. They will be doing an event for Extra Life, and they will be running a podcast. We too will be going live from Gen Con. Morgan will be on Skype as we go there. I have to call the hotel to make sure I have appropriate internet access because I want to do it downstairs.
Cool.
We are in the middle of casting for Gen Con. We will never be ready because we're never ready. And that's it for the countdown for now.
All right, cool.
Let's move on to the plugs.
Plugs.
All of these links are in the video are in this video's description.
Yes.
Go. We always forget to say this. Click subscribe.
Yes.
If you're watching this and you're not subscribed, please go subscribe.
Yes. Awesome. It helps us out. We've got our new custom URL. Very exciting.
I spoke with Courtney, and she agreed that what we could do is start putting some terrain aside and have a terrain giveaway for when we reach 1,000 subscribers.
Awesome.
Right.
Oh,
So that's
cool.
that's the incentive.
That's
so
very
people can say
exciting.
they can win something.
Next plug, again, Matt Davids, aka Dice Geeks, has an amazing collection of random tables. Matt, tell our audience where they can find these tables.
All right. Well, you can find the books of random tables. They're just called the Book of Random Tables. There's the first one, and then 2, 3, and 4. You can find them on Amazon. If you just type in the Book of Random Tables, you'll find them. You can find a PDF version on DriveThruRPG, or you can just go to dicegeeks.com. I also have a number of other books. I have a book of 177 blank dungeon maps that you can, with a random table at the back where you can just pick a map and roll on that table and fill the room with a non-combat encounter or some kind of fun item. I just released a book. It's called Fantasy Towns. It's 50 fantasy towns with maps for the city, and then 3 adventure ideas plus population demographics and a little bit of the history and things like that, imports, exports, and some other things for each city. So,
awesome.
Would I be able to use those in my live stream?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
absolutely.
Interesting. Interesting.
Very cool.
All right.
And I have some other books too. I have post-apocalyptic books. I have random tables for post-apocalyptic. I have random tables for sci-fi.
Awesome.
I have a train guide that can kind of help a game master just think about how to use forests or mountains or swamps or something like that as part of the adventure. Plus, it comes with a lot of scenario ideas. And I'm sure I'm forgetting a few. I've been putting out a lot of books recently.
Awesome. Oh, cool. Well, we're so happy that you joined us this week.
Don't forget, you got to give me a pin that says I'm rich number 1. That's what Smurfy says.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, Matt, thank you so much for joining us.
No problem.
You know, we appreciate it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
You know, a lot of our people pick this up after the fact.
Yeah.
And they listen to it tomorrow. I know, like the good DM who's in Australia.
Yeah.
He watches it afterwards, and we're gonna have him on. We're gonna do a pre-recorded one with him.
That's cool.
So that brings us to the wrap up.
Yeah.
Oh no, wait, we still have 2 more plugs.
Oh, rushing us through.
Please support our friends. Oh, did I? I just cracked. I think I'm going through puberty again. This is horrible. I'm gonna break out after this.
I really like that. I'm gonna play it back. I'm gonna make a loop out of it.
Please support our friends over at the TSR Games blog.
Yes. And Game Master Games, David VanderWerf, and his weekly Facebook Live event.
And Dave was with us last week, and we're going to get his wife Ginger in a couple of weeks. That's going to be awesome.
Ginger.
Next week we have Chaotic Anarchy coming on board.
Yeah.
And then I think then it's Ginger.
Awesome.
Right? Yeah,
Cool.
I think it's pretty cool. We got to line up some more guests, which we
Yeah.
will. Matt, hopefully you'll join us again in the future.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Sure.
And then the wrap up.
Yeah, the wrap up. As always, do please subscribe and like the video if you liked what you've seen tonight. As
Even
always,
if you didn't like what you like, like
just
it
lie
anyway.
to us.
Make us feel good.
You can follow us on Twitter at LR Terrain, at Instagram at Legendary Realms Games, and you can become a patron at LR Games on Patreon's website.
I am Rich Parla.
I'm Morgan West. It's been a pleasure. Have a good night.
Thank you for joining us. Matt, thank you once again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon,
Good.
Matt.
Okay. Good night.
I'm going to do it right this time.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the closing screen.